There's a moment almost everyone hits in their fat loss journey. And if you're here, I'm willing to bet you've hit it too. It's that moment where you're doing the workouts, you're eating healthy, trying to be consistent, you're trying so hard to do everything right. And then you catch a reflection in the window and your stomach just drops. So you check, snap a progress photo, you look at the scale, you take your measurements. And instead of feeling proud, you feel the same heavy frustration wash over you. Because the only thought running through your head is, how am I working this hard and still not seeing anything change? And then just to make it sting a little bit more, you open social media and you see someone else's transformation and you think, why is it working for them, but not for me? And then the spiral begins. Is it my age? Is it my hormones? Is my metabolism broken? Is there something wrong with me? If you've ever had that moment, you're not crazy, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. Here's the part no one ever told you, and I promise you, this is gonna shift everything. The reasons you're stuck have nothing to do with discipline and everything to do with these 20 hard truths. These are truths I learned the hard way. These are truths that would have saved you years of frustration. Truths that finally make fat loss make sense. Truths that show your body doesn't hate you. You've just been following the wrong roadmap. And once you hear them, everything clicks. So let's jump in. And I'm starting with one that might sting just a little bit, but it was one of the most eye-opening realizations for me personally. Truth number one, your healthy eating is still overeating. Frustrated because you're eating healthy and still not seeing results? Most of us assume that if we're focusing on whole natural foods, we should automatically get leaner. Healthy foods improve your health, but fat loss needs intention, not just clean choices. And believing that eating clean is all you need, that belief is part of what's keeping you stuck. So what happens? We stop paying attention. We eyeball portions. We give healthy foods way more freedom than they deserve. And the wildest part, your brain underestimates calories the most when a food feels healthy. Take nuts, for example. A small handful, the kind you think should be fine, can be 200 to 300 calories. And most of us grab 2 or 3 without thinking. Not because we're overeating intentionally, but because the healthy food label shuts off our portion awareness. Same with granola, protein bars, smoothies, nut butters. Those calories can add up fast, even when your choices are good. This isn't a willpower issue. It's an awareness issue. And the fix? Track for 2 to 3 days. Don't change anything, just track what you're already doing. You're not tracking forever. Just long enough to see where your portions drift. Just long enough to sort of recalibrate your eyeballs. Just long enough to finally understand what's actually happening. Because once you see the truth of what you're consuming, you realize this was only the first place your results were getting stuck. Truth number 2, your results didn't stall, your stimulus did. Training consistently, but feeling like you're spinning your wheels in the gym. Most people assume a plateau means something's wrong with them. Their metabolism, their hormones, their age, their genetics. But here's the truth. Your body adapts quickly. It's designed to. It's why you get stronger, why you can run further, ride faster, lift heavier. But here's the part most people miss. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If your weights haven't increased, your reps haven't gone up, your intensity hasn't shifted, then you're not plateaued, you're paused. And here's the shift you need. Your body doesn't change because you exercise. It changes because you give it a new stimulus to adapt to. Something can still feel hard and yet no longer be enough to produce progress. That's where so many people get confused. The fix? Progress one variable this week. Add weight to even one round of a movement. Or do an extra rep with the same weight if you can't increase. Or slow down the tempo. Or increase your range of motion. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be intentional. Micro overload becomes macro results. Truth number 3, the habit change you're avoiding hardest is the one you need the most. You know that one habit you keep dodging, tracking, eating more protein, that awkward one-leg move, meal prep, mobility work. We all have that habit, the one that feels annoying, awkward, uncomfortable, inconvenient, the one we keep writing off, finding reasons not to do, convincing ourselves even that it's not that important. But really, the habit you resist the most is the exact one that unlocks your next level. Avoidance isn't random, it's diagnostic. It shows you exactly where your growth is hiding. Not because the habit is magical, but because doing it requires you to become a slightly different version of yourself. It's the change you've been avoiding, and almost always, it's the missing link. The fix? Find one simple way to lean into the habit today. Add 1 extra ounce of protein to a meal. Do 1 minute of stretching. Take pictures of your meals. Practice the awkward move for 30 seconds. Start tiny. You'll be shocked at how quickly resistance melts once you start and how fast progress builds once you stop avoiding the very thing that moves you forward. Now, truth number 4, your macros don't need perfection. They just need intention. Most people think tracking macros means being perfect. Every number precise, every day flawless, every little detail micromanaged. But tracking isn't about perfection, and it's definitely not about restriction. It's about awareness. It's about balance. It's about predictability. Because fat loss doesn't require perfect days, it requires intentional ones. Here's where most people get tripped up. We think we're eating enough protein, but it's usually the macro we fall shortest on. We feel like we're in a deficit because we're not stuffed. But processed foods are easy to overeat, and just a few extra bites can quietly push you 300 calories over without you even noticing. Tracking often gets demonized as obsessive or too much work. But the real issue? We're winging it. And when you guess, your body guesses too, which is exactly why your results feel unpredictable. The fix? Stop trying to track everything. Start by tracking just one macro, your protein. When protein goes up, appetite stabilizes. Meals are more satisfying, training feels better, and sticking to a calorie deficit becomes easier, almost even effortless at times. Increasing protein alone is often the boost you need to finally see your results accelerate. Truth number 5, your strength workouts feel like cardio because you're afraid to rest. Have you ever shortened your rest on purpose because you felt like, sweating means I work harder, tired means I'm doing enough, breathless means better results? So you rush through the sets, barely pause between movements, and you tell yourself, you're just being more disciplined. But the truth, resting less doesn't make your strength training better. It just makes your lifts weaker. Because when you don't rest, your muscles are still working. They're just not recovered enough to produce the force needed to grow. And muscles are the very thing that change your metabolism, your shape, your strength, and the number of calories you burn all day long. When you cut rest short, you're not pushing harder. You're just lifting lighter. You're limiting how much force you can actually produce. You're limiting how heavy you can go. And you're limiting how much muscle you can build. That means you're accidentally sabotaging the exact results you're trying to create. The shift you need? Stop asking, how can I get more tired? Start asking, how can I create enough recovery between sets so I can actually lift heavier? Because here's the truth. Muscle comes from quality reps with sufficient load, not from how exhausted you feel. And rest is what allows you to lift with quality and load. The fix? Give yourself the full 60 to 90 seconds between sets no matter what. Make yourself even feel like you deserve the rest from how hard you push with your lifts. Let your breathing come down. Let your muscles recharge enough to perform. When you rest well, you lift well. When you lift well, you build muscle. When you build muscle, fat loss becomes easier, not harder. Rest isn't the enemy. Rest is the strategy. Truth number 6, your minimums matter more than your motivation. You're not inconsistent because you lack discipline. You're inconsistent because you rely on motivation. And motivation is unreliable by design. It fluctuates with stress, sleep, hormones, workload, emotions, and whatever life throws at you that day. Minimums, they don't fluctuate. Even a minute version of a habit keeps the streak alive. It keeps the identity intact. It keeps the momentum moving forward, even on the days when everything feels hard. Because here's the truth. Momentum isn't built from your best days. It's built from your minimums on your worst days. And once the momentum starts rolling, it compounds. You do a little, and suddenly you can do a little bit more. So if you feel like you give up the second life happens, here's the fix. Set a minimum for each habit. 1 minute counts, 1 set counts, 1 tracked meal counts. Create that plan Z, the version of the habit you can do even on the hardest of hard days. Because the mindset matters more than the exact action. And keeping the habit alive is what keeps your success snowballing. Truth number 7, don't avoid a macro, balance them. A lot of people think fat loss means choosing sides. Are you team low carb or team low fat? Maybe you've even tried both. Cut out carbs, your energy tanks. Cut out fats, you're never full. Cut out both, you're miserable, overeating by the weekend, and ready to swear off chicken forever. But here's the truth. You're not stuck because you're not doing low carb or low fat. You're stuck because you're avoiding one of them far too much. When you avoid carbs, your training suffers. Your recovery drops, your energy dips. Your cravings spike. When you avoid fats, your hormones take the hit. Your hunger cues get louder, your mood fluctuates, satiety disappears. Avoidance isn't the answer. Avoidance creates the issues. Your body doesn't need you to eliminate a macro. It needs you to balance them. Stop villainizing a macronutrient or swinging between extremes that always lead right back to low energy, cravings, overeating, guilt, and then starting over. Your body can't thrive on imbalance, and your results can't either. The fix? Stop cutting out whole macronutrients. Start pairing them strategically based on your activity level and needs. Balance your meals by anchoring them with protein, then adding a carb and a fat in the right portions for your goals. If you're more active, add more carbs to fuel that training. If you're navigating perimenopause or menopause, don't avoid those healthy fats. They're essential for hormone health and satiety. And choose micronutrient-rich foods to support your energy, your recovery, and your overall metabolism. Because balanced meals create steady energy, better training performance, fewer cravings, stable hormones, easier consistency, and predictable fat loss. Once your meals are balanced, your results finally have room to show up. Truth number 8. If you switch programs every time you're bored, you'll never get strong. Strength doesn't come from constant novelty. It comes from repetition, progression, mastery of the basics. But most people jump ship the moment a program stops feeling exciting. Here's the truth. Boredom isn't a sign that the plan isn't working. It's a sign the plan is starting to work. You're repeating movements long enough for your body to adapt, to learn, to grow stronger. And that's where results actually come from. Novelty is fun. It feels motivating, it feels fresh, but progression is what transforms your body. Here's the part most people miss. When something feels boring, it's often because you're no longer distracted by learning the movement. You're finally in a position to load it, refine it, and progress it. That's not a problem. That's results building. The fix? Stop chasing excitement. Start tracking progress. Track your weights, track your reps, track how movements feel over time. When you can see progress, you don't need every workout to feel exciting because you know it's working. And give yourself a progression checkpoint. Commit to a program for a set period of time, even just 3 to 6 weeks. Then you reassess. If needed, adjust load, reps, tempos, or add a variation. Not to escape boredom, but to continue progressing with intention. Because the truth is, the sexiest results are usually built from the most boring basics, done consistently, progressively, and on repeat. Truth number 9, you don't fail because the plan doesn't work. You fail because you stop working the plan. This one is tough, but it's true. And I'll be honest, I've been guilty of this myself. You don't quit because the plan is bad. You quit when it gets uncomfortable, or slow, or boring, or emotionally heavy, or imperfect. So you retreat, not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to escape discomfort. Over time, that escape becomes a pattern. And here's the reality most people miss. We choose escape because we crave comfort, but consistency is what creates results. So every time you choose escape, results never even get the chance to show up. Not because the plan failed, but because it was never given enough time to work. The fix? When you feel the urge to quit, don't. Scale down, modify, shrink the habit. Find a version that feels doable today. 1 minute counts, 1 set counts, 1 intentional choice counts. But keep going. Keep the momentum alive. Because the plan can't work if you don't work the plan. And the people who get results, they aren't perfect. They just don't quit when it gets uncomfortable. Truth number 10, if you've been dieting for years, you need maintenance, not a stricter deficit. If you've been dieting forever and you're wondering, why won't my body respond anymore? Here's the truth. Your body isn't resisting you. It's exhausted. And pushing harder is usually the exact thing that backfires. Chronic dieting lowers energy availability, and over time, your metabolism adapts by becoming more efficient. That doesn't mean it's broken. It means it's doing its job, conserving energy. So no, you don't need to slash calories lower. You don't need to try harder. You need a break. The fix? Take a diet break. Even just 7 to 14 days at maintenance calories can have a meaningful difference. Eat enough, balance your macros, fuel your training. Let your body feel safe again. This gives your metabolism room to recover, supports muscle growth, and it helps normalize hunger and energy levels. And the longer you've been dieting, the longer that break may need to be. For many people, building in maintenance phases or diet breaks every 3 to 6 months is key to long-term progress. Because sometimes the fastest way forward is to actually stop pushing for a moment. When you return to a deficit from a well-fueled place, your body's far more responsive. So if you've hit a plateau, don't automatically cut calories again. Pause first, assess, and ask whether your body needs recovery, not restriction. Truth number 11, your workouts are busy, not productive. More time in the gym does not automatically equal better results. You can sweat for an hour, feel like you're going to barf, keep your heart rate sky high, and still make very little meaningful progress. Because unfortunately, your body doesn't reward effort. It rewards signal. If your sessions are random, rushed, chaotic, or endlessly intense, you're expending energy, not creating change. Busy workouts feel productive. They feel hard. They feel disciplined. But if there's no clear stimulus, no progression, no intention, no recovery built in, your body has no reason to adapt. It's like driving really fast on the highway. You'll only get to your destination quicker if you're actually headed in the right direction. That's why so many people feel exhausted, but look the same. The fix: shift your focus from how much did I do to how intentionally did I train? Ask yourself after every session, did I challenge the muscle? Did I progress something, load, reps, tempo, or control? Did I recover enough to actually lift well? Because the truth is simple. Stimulus beats sweat every time. When your workouts become intentional instead of busy, you'll find you do less to achieve more. Truth number 12, you're not stuck. You're repeating unexamined patterns. Every plateau has a pattern underneath it. Undereating all day, overeating at night. Perfect weekdays, chaotic weekends. 5 days all in, 5 days completely off. Tracking perfectly, tracking nothing. Going all in, burning out, restarting. These patterns aren't created by laziness. They're created by perfection. The pressure to do it all right, to hit every target, to never miss a workout, to never mess up a meal, that pressure makes habits fragile. So when life happens, stress, travel, exhaustion, emotions, the habit doesn't bend, it breaks. And that break turns into a pattern. Not because you're inconsistent, but because perfection leaves no room for real life. The fix: set regular checkpoints to observe, not judge, your habits. Ask yourself, where am I being consistent and where am I being extreme? Which habits feel supportive and which feel restrictive? Where can I back off slightly and still move forward? Adjust before burnout forces you to stop, because progress doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what you can repeat. Pause to reveal the pattern of self-sabotage. Then change the pattern. Self-awareness is your fat loss superpower. Truth 13, being good all week may be the problem. Weekend overeating doesn't come out of nowhere. It's often the response to being overly restrictive, overly rigid, overly perfect Monday through Friday. And I know it feels like 5 days on and 2 days off should still count as consistency, but here's the truth. Your body doesn't operate on cheat day logic. It only responds to averages. So if you're in a tight deficit all week, then relaxing completely Friday through Sunday, the math quietly stops working, no matter how disciplined you were during the week. That doesn't mean weekends are the enemy. And it definitely doesn't mean you need perfect weekends. It means you need to own your weekend habits. The fix? Stop trying to force weekday habits onto weekend life. Your schedule changes, your social life changes, your food environment changes. Your plan has to change too. Step back and ask, how do my weekends actually look? Where do my calories tend to creep up? What meals or moments matter most to plan around? And here's where the cycle usually starts. The pressure to be perfect all week creates mental rebellion, making weekends feel harder to control, not easier. Because structure creates freedom, and freedom looks different on a Saturday than it does on a Tuesday. When you stop being perfect all week and start being intentional all week, including the weekends, fat loss finally becomes consistent instead of fragile. Truth number 14, your warm-up is costing you results more than your workout. Most people treat their warm-ups like an afterthought. A few random stretches, some lighter reps, maybe a couple minutes on the treadmill, if they do anything at all. But here's the truth. If you're not properly prepping your body, you're not getting the full return from your training. When tight muscles stay tight, joints don't move well, and the right muscles aren't activated. Your workouts become less effective and higher risk. That means you don't load the muscles you want to grow. You compensate with muscles that shouldn't be doing the work. And over time, that leads to stalled progress, nagging aches, or injuries that limit how hard you can train. All of this sabotages fat loss because you're not getting the full benefit of your training effort. The fix? You don't need a 20-minute warm-up. You just need an intentional one. Even 3 minutes makes a difference if you follow the right order. Release tight muscles with foam rolling, mobilize the joints you're about to use with dynamic stretching, activate the muscles you want to train with activation moves. This primes your body to move better, lift better, and recruit the right muscles. When your body moves efficiently, you lift with better form, build muscle more effectively, and reduce the risk of getting sidelined with injury. Better movement leads to better training. Better training leads to better muscle gains. And better muscle gains support a healthier, more responsive metabolism. Your warm-up isn't optional. It isn't something you skip to get to the good stuff. It is the good stuff. Truth number 15, nothing works forever. Your plan has to evolve. Your life changes, your body changes, your hormones change, your schedule changes, your stress changes. But most people keep trying to use the same habits anyway. And when your habits no longer match your current reality, your results stall. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're trying to force an old system onto a new season of life. Here's the truth most people avoid. Progress doesn't come from finding the perfect plan. It comes from updating the plan. What worked 6 months ago might not work now. What worked before kids, a new job, hormone shifts, or higher stress might not fit anymore. And that doesn't mean you failed. It means you've changed. The fix? Treat your plan like a living system, not a rigid rule book. Set a monthly check-in with yourself and then ask, what changed in my life? What feels harder than it used to? What still works? And what needs adjusting? Stop trying to return to what used to work. Build what works now. This is where diet breaks, maintenance phases, training shifts, and schedule adjustments come in. And why truth number 16 matters so much. Because progress is never linear, and your plan can't be either. Change isn't optional. It's required. Truth number 16, your metabolism responds best to cycles, not rigidity. Rigid eating eventually stalls results. Not because discipline is bad, but because your body needs variation, not constant pressure. Maintenance phases, mini cuts, macro shifts, refeeds, diet breaks, these aren't off plan. They are the plan. Because here's the truth. Your metabolism thrives on structure, not sameness. When intake never changes, training never changes, and your recovery never changes, your body adapts by doing less with less. That's not failure, that's physiology. The fix? Stop trying to eat the same way all year. There are seasons to push harder, create a larger calorie deficit, tighten macros, and be more aggressive on purpose. And there are seasons to pull back, eat at maintenance, add refeeds, restore energy, and focus on recovery and building. Assess 2 things regularly. How fast do I want results right now? And what can my body and lifestyle actually support? If you want faster progress, be willing to adjust macros strategically. If you need sustainability, build in maintenance or refeeds intentionally. Because sometimes fat loss requires pushing forward, and sometimes it requires slowing down long enough to recover. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. The people who get the best results aren't rigid. They're responsive. They adjust instead of forcing. They cycle instead of crash. They plan change instead of fearing it. And that's why their progress lasts. Truth number 17, consistency without progression leads absolutely nowhere. Showing up consistently matters, but repeating the same workout over and over with the same weights, the same reps, the same rest, and the same movements won't keep producing change. Predictable workouts create predictable results. And while you do need a consistent weekly structure, one you can repeat long enough to build skill and confidence, consistency alone isn't enough. Here's the truth. Your body doesn't change because you repeat workouts. It changes because the stimulus evolves and builds. If nothing progresses, not load, not reps, not control, not intensity, your body adapts. And then it stops responding. That's not a plateau. That's stagnation disguised as consistency. The fix? Train in phases, not randomness. Stick with a program long enough, usually about 3 to 6 weeks, to actually adapt. But within that phase, something needs to progress week to week. Add a rep, add a little weight, slow the tempo, improve the range of motion. And over time, use the same but different strategies to keep your body responding. Change postures or positions. Use different tools for the same movement pattern. Adjust sets and rep schemes. Rotate in power work, sprints, or conditioning blocks. The goal isn't constant novelty. The goal is intentional evolution. Because your body adapts to what you repeat, so repeat strategically. Consistency builds the base. Progression drives the change, and phases keep results coming. Truth number 18, your habits are proving who you believe you are. Your identity shapes your choices, and your choices quietly reinforce your identity. So if you still see yourself as the person who starts and stops, quits when things feel overwhelming, goes all or nothing, avoids discomfort, then your habits will always match that story. Not because you lack discipline, but because you're acting in alignment with who you believe you are. Here's the hard truth. You don't change your body by wanting a new identity. You change it by acting from one. And that's the part most people miss. The only way your identity shifts is through small, repeated actions that create new evidence. Not big promises, not motivation, not a perfect plan, evidence. The fix, act as if. Ask yourself right now, what would the future version of me choose right now? Then make that choice once. One workout you don't skip, one meal you plan, one boundary you keep, one moment you don't quit. That's how identity changes. Because identity doesn't shift all at once. It shifts through micro evidence stacked over time. You act as if until one day you realize you're just acting as you are. Truth number 19. Your struggle isn't macros, it's planning. Most people think their problem is protein or carbs or calories or being consistent. But if we're being honest, most people aren't failing because they don't care about protein or macros. They're struggling because they're trying to figure it out in real time, when hunger is high, time is low, and stress is loud. That's not how learning happens. You don't learn how to hit protein by winging meals. You don't learn balance by reacting on the fly. And you don't learn what portions work for your body without seeing patterns. Planning is how you learn. It's how you discover what protein amounts actually keep you feeling full, what meals fit your macros without feeling restrictive, what foods work best with your schedule and lifestyle. Without a plan, every meal becomes a guess. And guessing keeps results inconsistent, leaving you frustrated, working hard, and wondering why nothing is changing. Not because you're bad at dieting, but because you're skipping the step that actually teaches you how to do it. The fix? Stop relying on motivation. Start building a system. That means knowing what your next 1 to 2 meals will be, having protein sources ready to grab, planning around your schedule, not against it, adjusting instead of guessing. You don't need a perfect meal plan. You need a repeatable one, because willpower is unreliable, but a plan removes the need for it. And when planning improves, hitting your protein, your macros, and your calorie targets stops feeling hard and starts feeling automatic. Truth number 20, sometimes you just have to do it anyway. Not perfectly, not impressively, not for an hour, just anyway. On the days you don't feel motivated, on the days life feels heavy, on the days you're tired, busy, and just over it, those do it anyway days matter more than your best days, because those days build discipline. Discipline builds momentum. Momentum creates identity. And identity is what creates results. This is how you become the person who follows through, not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. And that version of you, that's the version who doesn't keep restarting. That's the version who compounds progress. That's the version who's lean, strong, and confident at every age. If these truths hit home, your fat loss journey is about to feel a whole lot clearer, because now you're not guessing. You're not blaming your body. You're not assuming you're broken. You finally understand why you've been stuck and how to move forward with confidence. If you want more coaching like this, more clarity, more breakthroughs, more, oh, that's why moments, make sure you subscribe and tell me in the comments which truth hit you the hardest. I read every single comment. And remember this, you're not behind, you're not failing, you're not starting over. You're finally doing this with the right information. So let's go.